Uptown Charlotte. We are at high noon here in the Spectrum Center. This is the site of the 2019 ACC Men's Basketball Tournament Championship, and this is the 2018 version of ACC Operation Basketball. We are happy to have with us the Orange from Syracuse now. As I explained to the dais just a few minutes ago, we've got microphones throughout the room. So if you are to ask a question, please identify which of the personalities your question is being addressed to so that we can swing the cameras in the right way. Also, please identify yourself and the agency that you're with. So that said, we'll open the floor up for questions. Who wants the first? Frank, you? We'll attend to Frank here on the right by the aisle.
Good thing I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Frank Maloney, Fox Sports 910, Richmond, Virginia. Coach, can you speak to what these two men have meant to you and their expected contributions this season?
Well, last year we ended up with two guards, and you know that's never happened to me, and I don't know if it's ever happened in college basketball where you have just two guards the whole last part of the year, where they had to play 40 minutes a game and really save the season. There would have been zero chance if either one of them had gotten hurt in any way, shape, or form. But I thought the way they played under the conditions that they had to deal with, and playing 3 games a week and playing 40 minutes a night, and then playing well at the end of the year, getting the tournament, and then having to play 3 games in 7 days, really, it was incredible what they did. And on both ends of the court, they were really good defensively. I think Frank led the league in steals, and they just were tremendous defensively and offensively. I can't say enough about all that they've done for us last year and what I believe they'll do this year. You know, Frank's been out a little while. We think he'll be back around the 1st of November. And we hope that he'll be able to go pretty quickly after that. But it's great to have 2 veteran guys back that have been as consistent and been as good as these 2 guys have. It's very unusual in college basketball. I'm really thrilled to have them both back.
Go to our second row to the right with Bob Holliday up here towards the front.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com. Coach, you went through a year, 2-3 seasons ago, where you weren't as long in the front line as you like to be. And looking at the back end of your zone last year, it looked like the arms, again, got longer. How much more comfortable are you as a coach to have, and I hope the pronunciations are right, to have 7'2" Chukwu and Dolige 6'10", and Oshae Brissett at 6'8"?
Well, you know, it's length is good no matter what defense you play. You know, whether you play man-to-man or zone, it's good to be long and big. But you know, our defense got better and better last year. You have every reason to believe it'll be as good this year. I think we'll play faster this year. So whenever you play faster, it creates more possessions, and obviously you're going to give up more points if you're giving them more possessions, but that's the way we like to play. But to have that kind of size is good for any defense. It's good for ours. I think just as important or more important is Frank and Tyus. Their size at the guard spot is really helpful in our defense. We can get away with a little bit smaller guys in the front line in some cases, but it really helps our defense to have length at the guard spot. And Frank and Tyus are 2 of the better defensive players that we've had.
Tyus, from the podium, your freshman year, you averaged 11 points per game. Last year, 19 points per game. In a system like Syracuse, is it reasonable to think that your scoring average would jump another 8 points like it did between your freshman and sophomore year? Or where do you think your point totals might top out?
I mean, I haven't really thought about much of my point totals at all. To go up 8 extra points, that would be pretty impressive, but unlikely. So I'm just going out this year just trying to play my game, get my teammates involved, but also stay aggressive. And I think good things will happen if I do those things.
Let's go back to Bob Holliday to our right, second row.
Question for the players, following up on Coach's point about length in the backcourt. Frank, you led the league in steals. Tyus, you weren't too far behind. You had 54. With the defense that you play, what are the opportunities to get steals?
Tyus, you first.
I mean, like Coach said, we are both 6'6" up top, and that's rare to see. Both your point guard and your two guard being that tall, that long, that athletic, and that just makes it tough to score on us. I mean, we can jump passing lanes. It's really tough to get three-point looks up, and our goal is just to make things difficult. And if we do those things, we're going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, playing for Coach Boeheim, you know, scoring the ball and, you know, getting up and down is a point of emphasis. And to do that, you got to get the ball. So, you know, I've been screamed at a little bit for some gambles, but, you know, that's what we want to do. We want to play a passing lane, you know, make it tough on offenses and, you know, kind of have guys overthink.
Frank, staying with you, you're a senior now. How did that happen?
It's a good question nowadays. But, you know, I've just been working hard every year, you know, trying to get better. And, you know, with the help of my teammates and coaching staff, you know, they made it a lot easier for me, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, you know. And I just used the growth I had, especially these first 2 years, to, you know, incorporate it into my game now.
Let's go down the aisle to our left, the gentleman in the gray and the red.
Hey, Frank, this question's for you. I talked to you earlier about you graduating, what you wanted to do after life with Syracuse. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, on what you're going to graduate with and what you want to do moving forward?
Yeah, I have a child and families. I will have a child and families degree. You know, I just want to use that to incorporate with helping back with my community, and also later down the line with coaching. I love the game of basketball. You know, I want to stay in it. You know, and, you know, someday, you know, be like Coach one day.
You don't want to be like that.
Coach, an interesting question came up in an earlier session as we think about the floor behind you. What type of team do you think you'll have as you come back here in March?
You know, I think we've got, with so many veterans back, it's we'll hopefully be a pretty good reflection of what we finished with last year, with a little more depth and some guys that can help us, I think, shoot the ball, especially from the perimeter, has gotten better. I just think the extra depth gives you an opportunity to run more, play at a little faster pace, and but the experience you get when you're successful. Sometimes if you have 4 or 5 guys back and you didn't win, it's maybe not that good a thing. But these guys were very successful at the end of the year. They know what it takes to be successful in the league and in the tournament, and you know, all that experience is going to be positive for us.
We'll go back to Frank to the right, 4th row or so, right on the aisle.
Coach, can you speak to the development of 20 games next year, and maybe talk about scheduling? I remember when you first joined the league, you had some very interesting comments, which I think most of us chuckled at. You're like, how did I end up having to play road games back to back to back against Carolina, Duke, and Virginia? And there was a lot of giggling. Has scheduling settled down for you in Syracuse, where you're more comfortable with, you know, the tour of duty, if you will?
Well,
and then
I think it's always, for us, it's been difficult in the Big East when you had to go Connecticut, Georgetown, St. John's, and it's just as difficult in the ACC with some of the games you can get. They're all really tough now. It doesn't matter too much about the 3. Any road games are going to be difficult. But the 20 games, you know, I've never been a big fan of going to 20, but it is what, you know, it's what the league decided to do, and that's what we're going to do. It probably eliminates a non-conference game or 2 that you would challenge yourself at in terms of, you know, playing somebody that would be at a comparable level. But, you know, it's the same for everybody. The early games, I've never been a big fan of playing early conference games. I like to build up to it, but it's what we're all going to do. And, you know, we've played really good, tough games early before, and that's what we'll have with this. You know, when you're in a great league, you're going to have tough trips, tough games. That's what it's about. And if you have a good team, or you have the potential to be a good team, that's going to help you get there.
Coach, on page 18 of this year's media guide, there's a young man by the name of Buddy Boeheim that is on the roster. What type of experience has this been for you, coaching him in a sort of a different arena, as it were?
Well, you know, he's a good player. He's worked hard. He's fun to coach because he works at the game. He loves to play. He always has. There's obviously some challenges. You know, you want to see your son do well, but my job's to win games, and we're going to play the guys that are going to help us win the games. And if he can do that, that'd be great. I'd be happy. And I think his mother would be a lot happier.
And Tyus, obviously it's one game at a time, and that's always been the case. But as you look at opening up the season, are there things that you feel like you want to accomplish early to set the tone for the season?
I mean, different from last year, I think Frank and I, we were the only two players that really had that basketball experience going into last year. But this season we have all 5 starters back. We all had the taste of the tournament. So we should all have that college experience under our belt. So I'm looking to start off right just from the door, and we should all be ready to play, ready to compete, and I'm really excited about this season.
Back to Bob Holliday to our right, second row.
Preseason voting is always a challenge. They want us to do it, and I haven't voted yet, so I'm looking for advice. You guys on the podium, any of you, who do you see as the top teams in the league, besides Syracuse, of course?
Well, obviously, you got Virginia. They, won the league. They're really good. Got a lot of guys back. Duke has got the best freshman class in the country, and 2 or 3 top picks probably in this year's draft. Carolina's very good. A lot of guys. Virginia Tech's got a lot of guys back. There's a lot of really good teams, and you can name those, and you're still going to leave somebody out that's going to be pretty good too. So it's the league's tough. It's always been tough, and we're going to get 7, 8, 9 teams in the tournament most years, and so you have to navigate through that league. And last year we did get better at the end, but it was a struggle all year for us in the league. I think we finished 9th or 10th, and you're still good enough to get to the Sweet 16 out of this league. So it's very competitive, and it's going to make you better.
Well, yeah, like Coach said, I mean, I believe the ACC is one of the best conferences in the country. You have to be ready to play every single night, and I think that just makes us a better team in the long run. Virginia's always good, Duke's always good, North Carolina's always good. Great players, great coaches, so it just makes us a better team at the end of the day.
Frank, going back to the idea that you're a senior and you got to be a senior fairly quickly because time does go by. When you look back at your Syracuse career, what do you think your biggest takeaway from your experience with Coach Boeheim is going to be? What's the lesson? What's going to carry with you, do you think?
It's a good question, but I mean, just the whole experience. This is I told someone else down there, this is really, when you really think about it, it's kind of once in a lifetime opportunity to get here to this stage on this team, to be coached by this guy right here. So, I appreciate every moment, In the beginning, it was a little tough to, understand those bumpy roads and those times to grow. It was a little hard, being young. You want to play, you want to help your team, you want to do well. But, I think those times have prepared me not just only for, a good basketball career after this, but, a good life.
I think with Frank's case, it's very important to see how you work through things, how you have to struggle sometimes to overcome what's in front of you, and to be able to go through that. And I think last year Frank was one of the very best point guards in the league, and played well in the tournament, and is poised as soon as we get him back on the court to have a great year. And it's great to see that kind of development from your players. It's really one of the best parts of coaching.
Ty, if you come back next year, we're going to ask you the same question, so be working on that. Coach, this will be your 43rd year, and I asked this with a wry smile. You've seen a lot, but have you seen it all yet?
You've never seen it all. There's something new around the corner all the time. But in terms of coaching, I mean, it's the same every year. You get a group of kids, and you try to get them to be the best they can be and get them to play together and have success. You want each team to have success, to be able to do something special. And every year you start out with that opportunity. And last year, as much of a struggle as it was probably as rewarding as any year for what these two guys helped this team accomplish last year. And that's what coaching's all about, really.
Last question from the podium, Coach. We asked this question earlier of another coach. When you look at your pre-conference schedule, those out-of-conference games as the season starts, how do you schedule? What are you looking for as you are trying to build the schedule, getting ready for league play?
Well, what we try to do is we try to play in a good tournament. We're in New York with Connecticut, Oregon, Iowa, so we try to get that kind of a tournament every year. We're trying to play a couple games. Like we've played Georgetown for a few years now. And then we try to find the best games we can find. We know we have the Big Ten game with Ohio State, but we try to find teams that are really good. Buffalo, Northeastern, Old Dominion are all favored to do well, win their conference or do well in their conference. I think last year the Buffalo game probably was one of the things that got us in the tournament. The win against Buffalo, they ended up being a top 25 team, stage tier 1 or whatever it's called, win. But it also challenges our players. We're playing St. Bonaventure again. They beat us last year. So we're trying to play as many challenging games as we can to help our strength of schedule, but also to help our team get better. You can't go out there against those teams and just show up. You got to play. You got to play really good basketball. It's just as tough as playing a league game. And those schools come in with the opportunity to make their season if they can beat us. So those are the games we try to look for in the non-conference part of our schedule, and I think it's what helped us get in the tournament last year.
Anything else from the floor? Syracuse, thank you. Good luck this year. See you back here in March.
Thank you.
Folks, Duke is due up next.